Good evening, spiritual warrior. I hope you had a wonderful week, and I hope you had many opportunities to use your skill of an attitude of gratitude. We brought that chapter to a close last week, if I recall. And I've chosen to go to the very next chapter entitled The Necessity of Enthusiasm. Because nothing succeeds without enthusiasm behind it. And we're going to see what His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami encourages us and gives us to work with for enthusiasm. I want to also bring up a couple of points. I remember when we were doing studying Spiritual Warrior 2, and we went through challenges, talked quite a bit about challenges, especially we mentioned challenges as opportunities. And I remember at that time something came up for me that I felt was challenging, and I was sharing with you. I pulled up a few of his words about challenges. The one I like: the Lord does not go on vacation, neglect us, or have favorites. He always deeply loves every soul and arranges challenges and adventures for each of us. And the other one was, when we inhabit a material body in the material world, there will be constant tests. And tests are challenges that you can either pass or fail. And I remember, that was in Spiritual Warrior 3 also, a chapter called How to Strengthen Yourselves, I believe. And he starts off that spiritual life is challenging, and that we do get tests, and the tests are qualifying tests to really see if we're serious about going back to the spiritual world. I bring all of that to say I've had to study those challenges again and see, have I taken them seriously. And we just finished an attitude of gratitude, and I came across a sentence in one of the sections about a lesson in every situation. Proper gratitude means that we always have faith in the Lord as our well-wisher, and always honor the indwelling presence of the Lord as Paramatma. We will eagerly want to honor that presence of the divinity within every person. Now, why am I going through all of this with you before we get into tonight? I want to say that this night's program will be the last for a period of time, and I don't know what period of time that'll be for me. I am going to Washington, D.C., leaving tomorrow, flying out of Jacksonville, Florida, to be with my daughter. I think I had mentioned before that she is, I guess you could say, battling cancer, or going through quite a challenge there with the cancer. And at this point, I feel it's important for me to be there. So I'm flying out tomorrow, and I have a one-way ticket, and we'll just see what the Lord arranges. And I was glad for this sentence of always have faith in the Lord as our well-wisher. And as that challenge says, he does not go on vacation. So it's an interesting, and I feel strengthening, challenging time, not knowing what the future holds. And I've had to remember these wonderful classes and the points and the concepts that have come up and how to apply them in my life. And even while the stew is boiling up, to not forget certain important points. So now, this chapter, the necessity of enthusiasm, I'm sorry I didn't have the time to read through and make special points, but we'll go through some of it together. And we'll see how far we get, or how far we get. Okay. Enthusiasm leads to success. Oh, he has an introductory verse from the Sastras, or ancient scriptures, that says this: if one is very serious about liberation, he must stick to the process of transcendental loving service, engaging 24 hours a day in the highest stage of ecstasy. And he must certainly be aloof from all activities of sense gratification. He continues, in the process of examining the enemies of the mind, and we've been over those if you've been with us for any length of time. And we even studied those. Remember, we had managing anger, and then in the qualities of a spiritual warrior. So we've been given some techniques if these enemies try to become obstacles. We must find out how they attack and how to recover from the attacks when they do happen. Most importantly, we want to know how to avoid the attacks before they take place. Utsaha, or enthusiasm, plays a significant role in protecting ourselves as well as removing the obstacles that interfere with our minds in the process of devotional service. We want to scrutinize this topic from all angles so that we can understand what produces enthusiasm, what hinders its development, and what happens in its presence, and what happens in its absence. So that's a lot he plans to cover in this chapter. And as I just mentioned with my timing, we won't be able to cover all of that tonight, I don't believe. But as I said, if you don't have the book, if you want to purchase one, Krishna.com store, and this is Spiritual Warrior 5, Making the Mind Our Best Friend. Okay? I hope you can get the book and follow through on this. If we look at spiritual success and even secular success, we will see a connection between enthusiasm, patience, conviction, and determination. Such qualities are, of course, spiritual. Did you hear them? Let's repeat. If we look at spiritual success and even secular success, we will see a connection between enthusiasm, patience, conviction, and determination. Such qualities are, of course, spiritual. Conversely, if we look at failure, spiritual or secular, we will see a constant manifestation of a lack of enthusiasm. Great saints and devotees, such as Srila Rupa Goswami, list enthusiasm as one of the primary tenets that help us surrender to the Lord. Why does enthusiasm play such an important role? It should be evident, because we all notice the effects of lack of enthusiasm. The demands of the senses increase, and the enemies of the mind, such as kama, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, illusion, matsarya, enviousness, and mada, madness, attack us. Not only do the 6 enemies devastate us, their close associates, such as mana, pride, vaya, fear, soka, lamentation, and visada, depression, also attack. This is interesting. As I said, I did not seem to have make the time to read ahead as I usually do and get a sense of what I will be sharing with you. But it's all right, because I've been going through my challenge, as I mentioned, and so I'm getting realization as I'm reading. And this last sentence on pride, fear, lamentation, and depression also attack. And what it came to me is, on this adventure journey I'm going on starting tomorrow, I must not let any of these enemies attack me. And based on what the author is saying, we have to have enthusiasm in what we're doing. And as I was reading those qualities, patience, conviction, and determination came up for me to implement them in my life as I'm going forth on this, because just as we read in Attitude of Gratitude chapter, there's a lesson in every situation. Each of these enemies can infiltrate our minds and engulf our consciousness, particularly when we lack enthusiasm. This should help us understand the power of enthusiasm because it builds our spiritual immune system and provides a unique type of protection. When we're enthusiastic, we are more mindful and grateful. We have more short and long-term goals. And most important, we have a powerful internal dialogue. Those who've been with us, we went through that internal dialogue. Watch, if you will. In the absence of enthusiasm, we will experience more disturbances because we will not have the potency to dispel attacks. So this might be good time to do some introspection or outer inspection. How have things been going in your life? Have you been having disturbances, or there have been disturbances? We may need to look and see, because he says in absence of enthusiasm, we will experience more disturbances because we will not have the potency to dispel attacks. And what he's saying where we've been already is that we see, if we look at success, we will see a connection between enthusiasm, patience, conviction, and determination. So it's kind of nice. You can sort of look at those qualities and see how you are putting them forth in your life or feeling them in your daily experience. He continues, our enthusiasm will naturally fluctuate according to the types of experiences we anticipate in the future. If a person finds out that they will receive $1 million next week, he or she will feel very enthusiastic due to the anticipation of the experience. The individual would probably begin planning ways to use the money even before it actually arrives. On the other hand, how can you feel enthusiastic if you know that in 1 week the landlord and the bank plan to evict you from your house since you have not paid your mortgage? Not only will they take your house, but they also plan to repossess your car and send you to jail since you have broken the law. How can you feel enthusiastic? What we anticipate has a major influence on our consciousness. Oh, thank you, Lord. Most people's lives are quite materialistic, as they ultimately have little to look forward to other than getting evicted from their bodies and having what they possess taken away. At death, they cannot claim ownership. Reflecting on these cold realities stops a person's enthusiasm. Are you still with me? He talks now about misdirected enthusiasm. By the way, are there any questions or comments on what was read? No. Anybody there? Nobody there? Not even Bhuvan Mohan?
Not in the chat room there.
Oh, not in the chat room? Okay. Billions of people in the world have misdirected enthusiasm, but millions of them have no enthusiasm at all. Billions of people in the world have misdirected enthusiasm, but millions of them have no enthusiasm at all. Who is the most difficult situation? Who is in the most difficult situation? Those who have misdirected enthusiasm, or those who have no enthusiasm? Who suffers the most intensely? Those who have no enthusiasm have no excitement or taste, either material or spiritual. Depression affects approximately 16 million people in the United States and 100 million people worldwide, to such an extent that they will require medical treatments at some point in their lives. Furthermore, depression costs employers more money than any other problem in the workplace, amounting to approximately $43.7 billion every year. I was trying to think what year this book was printed. I'm sure it's increased, especially during these times. Such expenses result from lost time due to absenteeism, lack of productivity, depression-related suicides, and medical care. Some people suffer from such severe depression that they cannot eat, bathe, or even get out of bed. They basically have no passion or enthusiasm to do anything. They have no enthusiasm for life and no enthusiasm for deviation. In this state, people can hardly attempt to follow spiritual activities. Actually, everyone ultimately wants to experience ruchi or taste, although most people simply run after kapala sukha, or flickering and temporary sense enjoyment. Unfortunately, this type of pleasure has long-term negative and inauspicious results. Although it might produce immediate stimulation, it ultimately involves misdirected energy, consciousness, and activities. Many times we feel very enthusiastic when it comes to sense gratification, and we might find ways to access the minimum amount of sense enjoyment. But when it comes to unconditional devotional service, we find it hard to find the excitement. In order to progress on the spiritual path, we must figure out where we want to direct our enthusiasm. We do not want to increase our enthusiasm for gross or subtle sense gratification, nor do we want to avoid any enthusiasm. Not only do some people have no enthusiasm for anything spiritual, but wait a minute now, not only do some people have no enthusiasm for anything spiritual, but they do not have enthusiasm for even social, political, or financial pursuits. They have no enthusiasm to try to understand God, nor do they have any enthusiasm to try to avoid the Lord's service through deviation. We want utsaha, or enthusiasm, but we want to direct it in the proper way. And we want to continuously, because it makes our existence more meaningful, and it helps to appreciate the medicine that will lead to an ultimate liberation and service. Remember the section in Attitude of Gratitude on the meaning of life and how important it is to have some sense of the meaning of life. Why am I here? What am I doing? It will help us to check the enemies that are constantly attacking us in the mind and influencing our entire lives. So we must be responsible. As we've been going through these spiritual warrior books, there's always a point where, what I would say, smack in our face. It's not about pointing fingers and blaming. We have to take responsibility of what's going on in our consciousness, what our words and actions are, and we're being given the opportunity to see that by hearing about what's the possibility if we're so disturbed or distressed or unhappy and we think we're enjoying life. I started a new chapter in the conference, teleconference. What's the chapter? The first line is, there are two types of people in the world, the foolish and the transcendentalists. The foolish always thinks they're having fun and enjoying life, whereas the transcendentalist sees beyond that superficiality. So this next section, find time for introspection. Now that has come up before. If you've been following, we're not giving a test because I'm checking my mind, but we did. He's again taking us within, because this is why we are studying spiritual warriorship, spiritual life, spiritual. Have to go within. Take a moment, he says, to remember the times on your own spiritual quest when you felt most enthusiastic. We want to pinpoint the times in which we felt more God-conscious and devotional than ever before. Conversely, look at the times when you felt unenthused to do a simpler analysis. These questions might help stimulate your thought process. Are you enthusiastic about your existence as a servant of the Lord? Are you enthusiastic to follow the basic principles that will help elevate your consciousness? Are you enthusiastic in the association of saintly people? Are you enthusiastic about what you can experience in your purest state? We must examine our spiritual life daily, weekly, and on even a yearly basis. This examination will help us recognize how various activities and thoughts affect us. We should note how the quality of our experiences varies according to our absorption in the process of bhakti, devotional service. Should I repeat those questions for you? Very important. And he says that they might stimulate your thought process. And sometimes we can get so involved in everyday routine that we feel we have to do this, and we may, in order to maintain and keep our family. But are we being stimulated on a higher level? So these questions might help stimulate your thought process. We'll go through them once more. Are you enthusiastic about your existence as a servant of the Lord? And from way back again, when we were doing the 12 qualities a year ago, and we went through, and which one was it? I don't quite remember, where he reminds us that we're servants of the Lord. Yeah? And he brings that up if you've been listening, or if you have the book and have been reading. Are you enthusiastic to follow the basic principles that will help elevate your consciousness? Elevating your consciousness. Are you enthusiastic in the association of saintly people or other spiritual people who are seeking to reach a higher level of consciousness? Are you enthusiastic about what you can experience in your purest state? We must examine our spiritual life on a daily, weekly, and even yearly basis. And what will happen? This examination will help us recognize how various activities and thoughts affect us. We should note how the quality of our experiences varies according to our absorption in the process of bhakti, devotional service. So it sounds like a wonderful time to really question yourself about your spiritual life. What does it mean to you? Are you enthusiastic about it? And how you can improve. The author goes on, during this self-analysis, some people find that regulation in their spiritual practices help maintain enthusiasm because the spiritual activities keep the consciousness absorbed in a positive direction. Other people find that a sense of worth or accomplishment helps them feel enlivened. Most have seen that being properly engaged in service can help increase their focus in God consciousness, whereas excessive idle time can lead to apathy. Remember one of our qualities? No idle time. Many notice how associating with other people who also have enthusiasm can increase our own enthusiasm. When we chant, meditate, and pray with those who have a taste for the holy name, it will naturally affect us in a positive way. Some people may notice a distinct relationship between their food intake and level of excitement. Overeating can cause a person to feel very slothful and lazy. On the other hand, we can recognize the times in which we felt more disturbance, doubts, and fears than ever before. Some might find themselves in a state of what's called bogatiaga, or a position of alternating sense gratification and renunciation. Today I'll enjoy and tomorrow I'll give up everything. That doesn't work. However, some days a person might feel fixed and other days absorbed in the senses. However, this constant fluctuation will not help us to really become deep sadhana bhaktas. We must discover what allows us to maintain enthusiasm instead of seeking a temporary experience of some flickering feeling of sentiment. These, of course, are just a few ideas to help stimulate your own thought process. We want you to specifically research your own life to see what works for each of you and what does not work. Then, include more of the positive activities in your life. We have to take more control of our spiritual progress. We have to take more control of our spiritual progress, if that is important to you. Again, it's like we do have choice. If you are interested in your spiritual progress, then let's say you've come to the right store and you're being given the opportunity to realize what steps to do, and it starts with a self-examination. And then if you've been following us through, we've gotten so many wonderful techniques, technology. By examining our situations comprehensively, we can find ways to protect and nourish our devotional creeper. Therefore, we want to look deeper into our past and present. We want to do those things that will enhance our spiritual life. Hopefully, each of us knows someone who's enthusiastic most of the time, or even all the time. Unfortunately, we also know people who never seem enlivened about life. So this few pages we've read gives us a lot to work with and consider how important our spiritual life is and the need for enthusiasm in our spiritual life. So I'm going to bring this program to a close. Are there any? There's nobody there at all? That's fascinating.
They may, I don't know, maybe there's some problem.
Oh, maybe
logging
so.
in.
Yeah, because usually one or two come in. Nobody's chatting with nobody. Okay, what I understand, nothing's coming through in our chat room. So it may mean the Lord wants you to take these questions, think about them, work with them until we return to Krishna.com.live. And I ask for your prayers and prayers for my daughter and for myself as I go forth. And it's interesting, I needed this reading tonight. As I said, I hadn't read ahead, but it gave me a sense of enthusiasm to want to go to help her through this crisis, whatever it is. If she stays with us or if she leaves, I want to be there to help her through that. And as I said, I was reminded, because all the time, you know, we just got through an attitude of gratitude, and I was saying, you said to find gratitude in everything. What is it in here? But this sentence helped me that proper gratitude means that we always have faith in the Lord as our well-wisher and always honor the indwelling presence of the Lord as Paramatma. And we eagerly want to honor that presence of the divinity within every person. So I definitely want to honor the divinity within her and have faith and trust in the Lord. So these books and concepts and thoughts offered by Bhaktitirtha Swami has helped me tremendously as I've offered to bring them to you and share with you for situations and conditions and challenges in our life. But those challenges are arranged by the Lord to help us to get closer to Him. So I wish everyone a good week, and I'm sorry you couldn't get through. If you were trying and couldn't, I don't know what the problem is, but it's good being with you. Hare Krishna, and when the Lord brings me back, I will be back with you. So keep studying now. Don't let any of this be wasted. You've been given so much through Bhaktitirtha Swami. Try to apply it in your life. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.